So our last section that we have to look at in this unit has to do with lines and transversals. So first and foremost, we have to know what in the world is a transversal. A transversal is defined as a line that intersects coplanar lines at distinct points. Remind me, what is coplanar?
They're on the same plane.
Good, on the same plane. So you've got two lines that are being intersected and by a third line. That third line is called the transversal. So if you look at your picture here, T is said to be the transversal of lines M and N. Now, notice when this happens, you have 8 distinct angles that are created. Okay? And there are some relationships between some of those angles that we are going to talk about. So we have all of these different angle pairs that are created whenever we have two lines being cut by a transversal. The first pair are called corresponding. So corresponding angles are one of our special angle pairs that we have created. We also have what we call alternate interior angles, alternate exterior angles, and same side interior angles, which sometimes are also called consecutive. So let's use our picture from the last slide, and let's use that to help me identify these angle pairs. So first of all, our corresponding angles. These angles are angles that are going to be in the same position. So you can kind of write that out to the side there. They are in the same positions. So for instance, if I am looking at my picture up here, notice that angle 5 is in the top left. And if I look down at my second set, which angle is also in the top left? 4. So angle 5 and angle 4 are corresponding. What's another pair? 6 and 2. So angle 6 and angle 2. 3 and 8, and 1 and 7. We also have what we call alternate interior angles. First of all, tell me, what does interior mean? Inside. So if we're talking about the angles that are inside of my two lines. So which angles are inside my two lines here?
1, 2.
Yeah, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay? Now, alternate means opposite. So if you think about it here, these are going to be in opposite positions. So they're my 4 angles that are inside of my two lines, and they are in opposite positions. Anybody want to take a guess at what one pair might be?
4 and 2.
Not 4 and 2. Which
4 and
one?
7.
Now, interior.
4 and 2.
Interior means we're talking about
4 and
inside.
3.
So think about 1 is in the top left, right? So I need the exact opposite, bottom right, which is 2. So angle 1 and angle 2. And then what would be my other pair? 3 and 4. So they're opposites. They're kind of crisscross from each other. So angle 3 and angle 4. Okay? Let's look at the next pair, alternate exterior. So keyword there, exterior means
Outer.
outside or outer, okay? So my outside angles here are 5, 6, 7, and 8. Okay?
5, 6, 7.
Good. 6 and 7, they're opposite positions, just like the last ones. So 6 and 7 would be a pair. And 5 and 8 would be another pair. And then my last pair that we're going to look at are the same side interior angles. So interior, again, it's talking about inside angles. And then same side. So take clues from its name. What do you think would be an example here?
1 and 4.
1 and 4, and what's the other pair?
3 and 6.
Yep, 1 and 4, and then 3 and 2. lines, if they are crossed by a transversal, a third line, you've got these 8 angles that are created, and within those 8 angles, you have these 4 relationships, okay? However, something special happens to these angle relationships when those 2 lines that are being crossed by my transversal happen to be parallel. So when 2 parallel lines are cut by a transversal, corresponding angles are congruent. Alternate interior angles are congruent. Alternate exterior angles are congruent. And same side interior angles are supplementary. So notice we've got 4 different angle relationships here. 3 of them are congruent, 1 of them is supplementary. To help you remember which one, it's your S's. Same side, supplementary. Okay? That'll kind of help you remember. If you've got your other 3 relationships, they're going to be congruent. So by knowing, if I've got these parallel lines, I've got all these angle relationships that I can use. So we can use those to help me find missing angles or to help me find the value of a variable by using these angle relationships. So let's look at our first example here. It wants me to find all angle measures and state what relationship you used. Okay? Now, first and foremost, what do we think here?
Are they parallel?
Good question. Are they parallel?
It doesn't say.
It doesn't say. Do they appear to be? Can we always go by what it appears, however? No. So if we don't know they're parallel, can I do much here? Yeah, I could find some of them, okay, because I could use some of my relationships I already know, like supplementaries and verticals and those sorts of things. But unless I know these 2 lines are parallel, I cannot use those congruencies in that supplementary angle that we just talked about, okay? However, I'm going to tell you, yes, they are parallel. Now, I want to show you. You can be told this in 2 different ways. One way that you will see this is they will often put little arrows on your lines. And sometimes they might use 1 or 2. But when you see these arrows on your lines, that's one way that they're telling you those lines are parallel. We okay with that? Another way is they'll just give you a statement. They'll say V is parallel to W. But we have to know in one way or another that those lines are parallel before we can use those relationships we just talked about. Okay? So let's go through and find these. Let's just start with A and go all the way through. Okay? So let's start with A. What is A? 155. And it asked me to tell what relationship. So what did we use or how did we know it was 155? Good. And what's that relationship called if they're adding to 180? Supplementary. Okay? So we know that A and my 25-degree angle are supplementary, so therefore they have to add to 180. That's how we got 155. Okay? What about B? 25, and how do we know?
It's congruent to the other one.
Yeah, it is congruent. What's that relationship called between my B and my 25? They're straight across from each other in that X. Vertical. Good. Vertical. So those relationships that we've already learned in our past unit are showing back up again. We still have vertical angles. We still have those supplementary angles. All right. What about C? It is also 155. Why? Good. C and A are vertical, so it also has to be 155 degrees. All right. D. How do you know it's 155?
No. I don't know how to word it.
If the lines are parallel, then you're going to do the same as the
Okay, good. What's that relationship called, though? What specific relationship? I do know my lines are parallel, so we've got all those relationships we can use, but which specific one could I use? Yeah, it corresponds with what? D corresponds with which other angle? A. Okay. You could have also used another relationship. What else could you use? Alternate interior with which one? D and C. Okay. Could I have used a relationship with B? What's the relationship between D and B? Same side interior, and you know they have to add to 180. So depending on how you look at it, you could use several different relationships there. You just have to write down one here. Okay, so you could have said there corresponds with A. You could have said it's alternate interior to C. You could have said same side interior to B. Okay. All right. What about E? 25. What relationships could I use? There's a bunch. You could have used alternate interior. You could have used what else? Corresponding. Same side interior. Could I have just used supplementary angles? Yeah, you know that D and E have to add to 180, so you could have used that as well. All right, what about F? It's 25, and what relationship? Say it again. Alternate exterior angles, good. What else could I have used? You could have used vertical. What else? Corresponds with, what does F correspond with? Yeah, it would correspond with your B. Okay. And then the last one, G. What is it? 155. And you could have used those same relationships. You could have used alternate exterior with A, corresponds with C. It is vertical to D. You could have used supplementary angles there. So there's lots of different relationships depending on how you look at it. All right, so in example 2, it says solve for X, then find all angle measures. Any ideas? Madison? How do you know you can set them equal to each other? Okay, P and Q are parallel. So, good. Brooke kind of piggyback there. P and Q are parallel, which makes my two angles here 15x minus 13 and 13x plus 3. It makes those corresponding, and what do we know about corresponding angles when my lines are parallel? Yeah, but what do I know about any corresponding angles when my lines are parallel? They are congruent, which therefore means I can set them equal. Okay? So even though it does not specifically say what is the relationship here, you kind of have to know what their relationship is so that way you know, are they congruent or are they supplementary? Okay? So once we know that they're corresponding, then we know that they're congruent, therefore we can set them equal. Okay? So let's set them equal here. We've got 15x minus 13 equals 13x plus 3. Now what? Yep. Subtract your 13x, which is going to leave you with how many? 2 x's. My minus 13 drops down, and then I'm left with a 3 on the other side. Now what? Add your 13, which is going to give you what? 16. Divide by 2, so x is 8. True or false, some of the angles in my picture are 8 degrees.
It can't be.
Okay, I'm hearing some falses. Why?
It's not okay. It's just the value of X.
Good.
Put it back into it.
My value is x, okay? But that does not represent any of the angle measures. In order to get the angle measures, we're going to have to plug it back in, okay? So x itself is not representing angle measures here, so 8 is not one of my angle measures. I can use it to find my angle measures, okay? So let's plug it back in. You're going to have 15 times 8 minus 13, and what do I get? 107 degrees. So that's this angle. What would this one be beside it? 73. How do you know? Yep, they have to equal 180. What about the one below the 73? 107, and the one beside it? 73. Okay. What about my angle 13x plus 3? Yeah, it's 107. I could plug it back in, but I'm still going to end up with the same thing because we know they're corresponding. What's the one beside it? 73, and below that one? 107, and the last one? 73 degrees. Okay. So on these last ones, even though it does not specifically say what is their relationship, you have to kind of know what is their relationship so that way I can use that to determine, should I set them equal if they're congruent, or should I add them and set them equal to 180 if they're supplementary? Because all 8 of these angles, would you agree, are either going to be congruent or supplementary to each other, right? There's only 2 measures. So you have to be able to figure out which one is it by looking at that relationship.